to spend a little bit more time thinking about a natural monopoly. Natural monopoly is one of our three sources of entry barriers where the market is just more efficiently served with one firm rather than multiple firms. Okay? So a natural monopoly occurs precisely when the market's demand curve crosses the average total cost curve while the average total cost curve is still falling. Remember, we usually think of average total cost curves as having a U-shape to them in most instances. But what if demand doesn't make it out to the bottom? What if the demand curve crosses the average total cost curve while the average total cost curve is still on its way down? Right? In this case, it's more effective for one firm to serve the whole market. In this case, what we have, or what we often have, is high fixed and low marginal costs. Right? The example that we hinted at before was satellite radio. It's very expensive to put a satellite in space, but it's very inexpensive to add a new subscriber. It costs them essentially nothing. You call into their call center, they turn you on. You know, maybe you have to buy a little device to go in your car to go with it, but the cost of adding a subscriber is, you know, $20. The cost of putting a satellite in space is millions and millions of dollars. But think about this. If the firm were to produce here, and it's not clear that this is where the market would wind up, but if a firm were to produce this quantity here where the cost of production was equal to essentially the amount of money, the amount of revenue they could collect from their consumers, think what would happen if two firms were trying to supply this quantity rather than one. Right? If two firms were trying to supply this quantity out to here, they each would be supplying half of this. Right? So rather than one firm producing at an average cost that's pretty low, think of what would happen if a firm was trying to produce half this much. If a firm was trying to produce half this much, the cost of producing that would be very, very high, and very, very high for two firms. Right? So the cost of production would be significantly higher if we had two firms producing. In other words, we put two satellites in space rather than one. We often get a lot of mergers in these industries because firms figure this out. Sirius and XM are one example.